Amazon is betting big on The Lord of the Rings, spending hundreds of millions of dollars on a prequel series set long before the events of the movies during the Second Age of Middle-earth. But what is the Second Age, and how did it literally reshape the face of the planet? Let's explain this momentous era of The Lord of the Rings history.
One ring to rule them all.
Fantasy universe created by J.R.R. Tolkien is much bigger than just the events of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. The land of Middle-earth is part of a larger world called Arda, and over the course of several decades, Tolkien created a detailed history of it. This ranged from the creation of the universe all the way up to humanity's modern era and is divided into 4 ages. The Second Age, which was briefly glimpsed in the Lord of the Rings movies, spans the long period of time between the banishment of the original Dark Lord, Morgoth, and the first defeat of his servant Sauron. It's defined by key events like the rise and fall of the Kingdom of Numenor, the creation of the Rings of Power, and the formation of the last alliance that temporarily saved the world from Sauron's wrath. The Second Age begins in the aftermath of a catastrophic war over mystical jewels known as Silmarils, and Morgoth's banishment from Arda. In this new era, both men and elves begin leaving Middle-earth and venturing west. Many elves retreat to a place called the Undying Lands, which you might recall as the place where thousands of years later, Frodo and Bilbo are taken at the end of the Return of the King. Meanwhile, a group of men called the Edain settle on an island called Numenor. While initially benevolent, the Numenorians become more warlike due to their jealousy of the elves' immortality. The Second Age is also where Sauron begins consolidating his power and filling the void left by his master Morgoth. He manipulates the elves into creating the Rings of Power and giving him the weapons he needs to dominate Middle-earth. The rings are forged by the elf lord Celebrimbor, who only too late discovers Sauron's true nature. The reign of the Numenorians culminates with the rise of a king named Ar-Pharazôn. Sauron convinces Ar-Pharazôn to turn against the Valar, who are basically Tolkien's version of angels, and attempt an invasion of the Undying Lands, where the Numenorians might find the immortality they so crave. This is one of the few instances where Iluvatar, or the god of Tolkien's fantasy universe, directly intervenes in mortal affairs. Iluvatar annihilates Numenor in an act so destructive it transforms Arda from a flat plain into a globe. This also cuts off the Undying Lands from the rest of the world, forever denying men the chance at immortality. Sauron himself is nearly destroyed in this attack, but his spirit survives and he soon begins building a new army in Mordor. Fortunately, not all men were destroyed along with Numenor. A group called the Faithful, led by King Elendil, the distant ancestor of Aragorn, returns to Middle-earth and creates the kingdoms of Gondor and Arnor. Along with his sons Isildur and Anarion and the Elven kings Gil-galad and Elrond, Elendil forms the last alliance and wages a long, costly war against Sauron. Lord of the Rings fans probably know what happens from there. Sauron is defeated but not destroyed, Isildur claims the One Ring, and the Second Age makes way for the Third. So are you excited about the Lord of the Rings prequel? Let us know in the comments. And for more from Middle-earth, check out our rankings of Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings and Hobbit movies, as well as Cinefix's What's the Difference on the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And be sure to subscribe to IGN wherever you like to watch.